Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. That's supposed to be first. The lights went down, and that was Zach and Dominic's way of telling me that I'm already late. So thank you all for being here. I welcome you all to the Rotary Club of Toledo. At this time, I would like to ask Carol Sobczak to come to the podium to deliver a reflection and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I came upon an interesting quote this morning that's attributed to Pablo Picasso. At least that's what the internet said, so you never know. So here's the quote. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. So today, as we hear our foundation update, let us be grateful that we can give to our community through our donations. But let us also remember that just as we have many gifts, there are many ways to give them away. We can give our time, our talents, our compassion, our friendship. May each of us find our gift and have the knowledge and ability to give it away. Please join me in our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. As we begin our meeting, I would like to thank and acknowledge Hartman Bogan as this month's sponsor and Rotarian Donna Bogan. I don't know if I saw Donna in the room or not, but let's give her a round of applause. Donna, thank you very much for your support. If anyone has any guests that they would like to introduce, we ask you to please come forward and bring your guest to the floor mic so everyone can hear and see you and your guest. Again, we're asking that members introduce the guest with their name, company, and role only. In the interest of time, guest, we're excited you're here, but please leave the speaking to your Rotary host.
President Kevin. I have with me today Steve Naylor. He is Vice President and co-owner of Seagate Roofing and Foundation Services and a potential member.
Steve, welcome. Thank you for being here.
How you doing, President? I'd like to introduce my intern, Manuel Mathis.
Manuel, welcome. Thanks for being here.
President Kevin, I have two guests with me today. The first is Greg Cook. Greg is the president and CEO of the University of Toledo Federal Credit Union.
Greg, welcome.
And then my second guest, Tom Sorosiak, the development director for the Polish Cultural Center.
Tom, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
President Kevin and fellow Rotarians, I have three guests with me today. I have, actually I'll reverse the order. That's okay. This is Shannon Roof. She's a realtor and sales manager for Berkshire Hathaway Homes, Kaler Realty.
Shannon, thank you for being here.
I'm sorry. I have Miss Precious Tate, who is the coordinator for the John Henry Elder Jr. Foundation, and she's a certified consultant with the prestigious School of Protocol.
Precious, welcome. Congratulations on the new position.
Which I'm trying to follow protocol. And we have Mr. Trevor Dorn, who's the president and CEO of Wonder Wash Exterior.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Do we have any visiting Rotarians from other clubs? I don't know that I saw any come in, but wanted to give an opportunity for you to say hello. All right. At this time, I'm going to invite Jackie to the podium for a quick announcement regarding a club update, to say the least.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. For those of you in the room who may not know, I am expecting my second child, and I'm very excited to announce that to the club. Thank you. We have posted an interim executive director job description, and so you may be seeing that online posted. Someone will be at the helm of the club working with Kevin, of course, and the rest of the board and the foundation trustees during my absence, which is a short 5 to 6 weeks away. So if you know of anybody who is qualified for that role of the interim executive director, please send them my way. They can find the job posting on the Center for Nonprofit Resources. And thank you so much.
Congratulations, Jackie. We were talking this morning, I told her, I was like, people are going to start seeing that job posting and maybe not know why. So I figured I'd let her be the one to tell you rather than me. All right, well, let's get to today's program. Jim Lehman, will you please come to the stage and begin our annual Foundation Day?
Well, thanks, President Kevin. Thank you all for being here. I'm really surprised at the attendance here. The holiday party's next week with the symphony. It's not tonight. But at any rate, I'm really happy to be here because our foundation has a really good story to tell. And today, I'm going to go through some of the basics. It's the heart and soul of our organization, and we do truly make a difference in our community. Because of the generosity of those who have come before us, and our ability to continue the good works that we do will be dependent on your commitment of time, talent, and treasure in the coming months. Here's my agenda for the day. Let me see here. Oh, let me tell you about our mission here first, if I can get this to go. There we go. Oops. My goal is to help you all learn about the foundation. By my count, we've got about 78 members in the club who were not here for the last Foundation Day. So while it may be a review for a lot of you in the crowd, it's going to be new material for a good number of people. I want to celebrate our accomplishments, and we're going to hopefully get you to commit to supporting the foundation in the upcoming year. There we go. My agenda is to recognize the trustees, do an overview. We're going to have a panel discussion with 3 organizations for which we have had a very significant impact. And Pat Sheehan is going to give us a pitch for why we should all commit to this annual campaign, and we'll take questions. So first of all, while I get to be the guy that stands up here and gives the talk, I'm only one of 9 members of the trustees, 9 trustees. We have 3 past presidents, 3 former board members, and 3 members at large. This past year, Brent Cousineau, if you'd stand and be recognized, he is outgoing. He served his term, and we replaced him with Jim Barron. If you guys would stand, I'd like to recognize all the other trustees. I have myself, Mike McIntyre. Wait a minute. It's out of control. Oh, we're fighting each other. There we go. I'm the chair. Mike McIntyre is my vice chair. Dick Wolf is our treasurer. Jim Barron is our new member. And we have Alex Dew, Brian Kennedy. Where's Brian? Back there. Sherry Sears, there we go. Dean, is Dean here? Dean's over here. And Joe Tefelsky, I know I saw Joe. So while I get to be the presenter, these guys all have a huge role to play in the management of our foundation. So how about a round of applause for all of them? Okay. I've had the privilege of being the chairman, and as chairman, it's my job to make sure that we cover 3 main priorities. The first is to be good stewards of our endowment money. We have a significant amount of cash, which you'll see in a few minutes. Second is to maintain the integrity of our grant process and to make sure that we're funding the right kinds of projects. And the third is to keep the annual campaign going. Money is the fuel that our engine needs to do what we do. Now, about 80% of the money that we give out each year is from the foundation endowment, but the other 20% comes from our annual campaigns. And I've got a formula here. Man, this thing's going crazy. I'll show you how it's actually formulated, but our annual campaign has a huge impact on how much money we're able to put into the community. So I believe we've accomplished the first two as a board, but I'm confident that as a group, you're all going to help us accomplish the third. I've provided some handouts on the tables that give an overview on one side. I'm not going to go through that line by line. On the back, it shows the projects that we funded in the last fiscal year. Our fiscal year ends June 30th every year. And last year, we funded 38 separate projects totaling a little over $257,000. So that is a big success, and that's one of the reasons we're here to celebrate. So let me go through the slides. This should be fairly painless. We set up a club foundation in 1915 because they wanted an avenue for people to make tax-deductible contributions. The Rotary Club itself is a 501c4, not a 501c3. Now, I can't tell you the difference, but all I know is donations to the 501c3 are deductible and the 501c4 are not. So we have to be very careful to keep those as distinct organizations so that we don't lose the tax deductibility of the contributions into the foundation. The foundation, through club committees, funds all of the grants to the local charities that address the needs of our community. We have 3 donor-advised funds that are owned and managed by the Greater Toledo Community Foundation. We moved all of our money over to them, I think it was about 8 or 10 years ago, something like that. Because we kind of came to the conclusion that a lot of the services that they provide to other organizations were exactly what we needed. We were doing a lot of things ourselves that they are experts at. So you can see our primary fund, which is used to fund all the grants each year, has about $4.8 million in it. We have a separate transformational fund that we use for big projects like the park that we did most recently. That was about a $350,000 project. We're building that again. Thanks to Alex and the golf committee, we put $65,000 into that transformational fund this year. And we have an endowment for the Partners in Education, which we set up years and years ago, and that spins off money to support that organization, to keep it going. The amount of money that we're giving away each year is basically 3 components. We take 5% of the average balance for the last 12 quarters on the endowment, and we average the past 3 annual campaigns, and then we subtract administrative expenses. So our budget for fiscal 2025 is $253,000. This is a very important part of our process. This is how the grants are actually selected. The club and the Greater Toledo Community Foundation solicit applications. GTCF does preliminary vetting to make sure that they qualify as 501c3 organizations and that they have a reasonable amount of stability. And then they distribute them to the 6 committees. Those are listed on the overview. The committees then go out and do site visits. So for every application, there's a Rotary member who has taken the time to go out and meet the people, make sure that it's a legitimate cause and that the money is going to be well used. Then twice per year, the chairman of each of the committees get together at what we call the Foundation Advisory Committee. And they kind of do the arm wrestling. If we have 200,000 in request and we have 150,000 to give away, they are the ones that do the prioritizing and determine which are the best ones, which ones are going to be funded. At the end of that meeting, the Foundation Advisory Committee makes a recommendation to the club board. The board then recommends them to the foundation, and the trustees approve the grants and instruct Greater Toledo to fund them. Pretty straightforward. Any more? There we go. At this point, we'd like to have a panel discussion of, what do we do? There we go. We brought in 3 organizations that we've had a very significant impact on. The Ability Center is having their 124th anniversary tomorrow, and they were actually formed, the organization was formed by the Rotary Club 124 years ago. Partners in Education was also an idea that was formulated by our Rotary Club, put in motion, how many years ago, Chuck? 30 years ago. We have an endowment, and it keeps, the idea was to create a sustainable organization that would continue to provide those benefits to the community. And we also had a significant impact on Metro Parks Toledo. So with that, I'm going to bring Pat Sheehan up with representatives of each of these organizations to talk a little bit about the impact we've had and the impact they've been able to have because of our funding and our support.
Thanks, Jim. Well, good afternoon, panelists. I think Jim did our introduction already, so, but just to repeat, we have, to my far left, we have Ash Lemons. Welcome, Ash. In the middle, we have Dave Zank from Metro Parks Toledo, and then closest to me is Brooke Schlageter. So welcome, everybody. We really appreciate you being here today. So I thought a good way to start off is to ask each of you just to give a brief overview of your organization, what your mission is, a little bit of history maybe. So Ash, do you want to lead us off?
Sure. Thank you for having me today. I'm stepping in for Stuart, who unfortunately can't be here today. But I did want to mention you guys are why we exist. All the work that we do in the community that you guys think is good, you guys created that. And it was 124 years ago. Charles Spielbach led that charge. And for decades, we continue to change the mission based on the needs of the community to serve children and adults with disabilities so that they can thrive in a community of choosing. And I think a lot of good stuff has come out of the seeds that you planted. And so I just want to say thank you for that. We do serve Northwest Ohio, 7 counties. We serve a little bit more than that, but lots of services. I'm sure you guys have seen our website. We do a lot of things. Thanks.
Thank you, Ash. Dave, tell us about Metro Parks.
Yeah, good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Thanks for having me. I'm Dave Zank with the Metro Parks Toledo. Most of you probably know we steward 13,000 acres on your behalf, 19 individual parks. And really do 2 things at the end of the day. We're a conservation organization, and we create really unique experiences to get people outside and recreate in all the parks that we do steward on your behalf.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Partners in Education was founded by the Toledo Rotary 30 years ago. I think that's been mentioned a couple times. Although in terms of programs, there have been a number of iterations of exactly what Partners does in Toledo area schools. Currently, we are doing literacy and college and career readiness work in 16 area schools.
Thank you, Brooke. All right, our next question is going to be just to talk a little bit how the Toledo Rotary Club has impacted your organization historically or consistently over the years. Brooke, why don't you lead off? We'll go this way this time.
So again, we would not be here without the Toledo Rotary. And I think that there's a number of different roles that this organization plays in supporting partners in education. One of them is just having a network of like-minded people, and having access to that network is a wonderful thing that is extremely helpful as we're running this organization. The other thing is Rotary has always been helpful in terms of funding. We, as somebody mentioned, we have an endowment. The Toledo Rotary contributes a percentage of that every year to support our organization. And lastly, we are able to connect with Rotary members to get volunteers. Both of our programs are largely dependent on volunteers to run effectively. And the mission of partners is student success through community engagement. I should have probably said that with the first question. But Rotary allows us to access that community engagement piece that is so important to the success of the organization.
Thanks, Brooke. Dave.
So I want to comment a little bit on Middle Grounds Metro Parks, which to date represents the single largest contribution that the Rotary has made. It was made to commemorate your centennial celebration, and I want to take a moment just to step back in time to position that gift, representing what the property itself was, but also who Metro Parks was at that point in time. Middle Grounds was the first Metro Park that had been opened in over 40 years. If you go back, Wildwood was the last park that our community had decided to open. It was an interesting moment in time for our organization as well, because historically we worked in western rural Lucas County. We had no presence downtown. Actually, at that moment in time, we only really had one park in the city of Toledo, which was Swan Creek. So coming downtown was a bit of an intentional pivot for us to begin with. We did it at a pretty strange location initially. This property was effectively a landfill, if you'll remember. So when we bought it, the first opportunity, the first commitment we had was to remove about 8,000 tons of garbage and refuse and debris, just to scrape the property clear. So we came to you as an organization, frankly, that hadn't developed a new park in 40 years, with a landfill that we had just bought, and asked for your support. As you would imagine, if you were here in the community during that time period, there was not universal support for this idea. Frankly, there was questions about, is this even the role that Metro Parks should be playing? Why are you coming downtown? This is a relatively postage-sized piece of property for typically what you work on. It's 30 acres, all of the challenges. At that moment in time, there was even safety concerns. You know, if you got to the Oliver House and you looked down the street, it went through your head. Should you go any further, right? So there was a lot going on, and this is what we came to you with. Not only was the Rotary early adopters in this, but again, you supported this project with your single largest commitment in history. And what that did was transform, again, a brownfield and a portion of our community that we had no idea what to do with this, to a site that today welcomes 400,000 visitors to it every single day. And perhaps more importantly, this project really started the process of showing our community what our riverfront can actually be.
Thanks, Dave. And Dave, so that kind of gave you a footprint on the river to do what you've done across the way now, and really spectacular with the riverfront property you have now. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Right. So it really did set the first chapter, if you will, for everything that's going on downtown today. And certainly many of you were involved in this through the work of the 22nd Century Committee, which now developed into Connect Toledo. But at that moment in time, many of us were involved in the benchmarking process that went on. And we wanted, our goal was to really answer the simple question of what had to happen to make Toledo more competitive. More competitive in terms of recruitment of new businesses, retention of talent, all the things that we needed. And so we went out with the help of the Chamber of Commerce and benchmarked a handful of peer cities, sort of cliche, but other former Rust Belt cities, places like Boise and Tulsa and Des Moines and Grand Rapids. And I've given a presentation here on this, but the conclusion of that was that every one of these communities was doing the very same thing. They were using public investment, aggressive investment in parks and open space. They were repositioning what is really thought of as their greatest public asset, which is their downtown riverfront, to drive a whole new quality of life, to drive economic development, to support neighborhood growth and development, and fundamentally reposition their regional identity. And so your investment in Middle Ground started the process for us to understand what this type of vacant property can actually do and be for our community, and essentially now has led us to the point where the entire downtown, 5 miles, 2.5 miles on both sides of the river, is fundamentally getting restored. And you're seeing all of those layers of benefits start to come into our community now as a result.
Thanks, Dave. That's a great story. Ash, tell us a little bit more about how Toledo Rotary Club has worked with the Ability Center over the years.
Well, I've been at the Ability Center quite a while, actually, 22 years. Will be 20. And, Mike just died. There it is. I've had firsthand experience with Rotary contributions making a huge impact on our programming, not only because of we wouldn't exist without the Rotary, but we had an issue about 15 years ago. We were working a demonstration project for the state, and it was called, we were moving people back into their homes out of institutions. So people that had been in long-term care situations that really didn't want to be there and they could live in the community, we were trying to help them transition back into the community. And so when we first started that program, nationally it was called Money Follows the Person, I reached out to one of our social workers and said, what are the barriers you're running into getting people out? And she said, well, there's this thing in Medicaid where if they're in the institution, they can't get home mod money to create access to their home. And I'm like, this doesn't seem right. I don't understand this. So you're saying that without a ramp or low-rise steps or something that's making it safe for them to get back in their home, they're being told it's not safe for you. Correct. It's against medical advice. I'm like, okay, well, let's fix this. And at the time, we were helping hospice with hospice patients. We had 3 temporary ramp systems, and they're aluminum modular systems. And I thought, let's see if we can get some funding to get some more modular systems so we can put ramps on their home and then people can get back into their homes. Rotary gave us some seed money. We put some in, Area of Office on Aging put some in. And on Thanksgiving, I got home, 6 o'clock, turned on the TV, and there's the news story about the Ability Center with AOA, Rotary, pooling together to be able to get this lady who was 87 at the time home for Thanksgiving. And it was a pretty emotional story. And my wife was like, do you know about this? And I'm like, yep. I'm like, every step of the way. But what we did with that is we took that concept to the state. I called up some buddies of mine from the Ohio Department of Medicaid that were running the program in Ohio. I said, hey, let's have lunch in Columbus. And when we had lunch, I said, hey, there's this issue with the Medicaid code. We need to get it fixed. And he's like, 10-year process, Ash. And I'm like, 10 years? I'm like, well, what can we do in the meantime? And he goes, why don't you run that project you're running with the Rotary Seed Fund and the temporary ramps? See how many people you can get out over the next year. Bring that information back to me. A year later, we had effectively used that ramp to get 10 to 12 people out. And I took that back to him, and he goes, this is great. Took it to Ohio Housing Finance Agency. They got $1 million. All across the state, they started using temporary ramps to get people out of institutions. When we finished, we were able to get over 150 last count, utilizing those ramps that initially started with the seed money that you gave us. That's just one little story. Those ramps are still being used because they don't rot. We've helped kids. We had a bus driver call us and say, hey, I noticed this kid's crawling up his steps to get home. I think his family needs a ramp. Can I send him your way? I'm like, yeah. We helped that kid. We had another little girl, about 8 years old, had CP, used a power chair. Family said, we can't get the ramp. We can't get the power chair in the house. It's too heavy. Put a ramp on her home. They just called last week. They're moving, and So they use the ramp for about 10 years. They're donating it back to us, and we're going to use it to pay it forward again. So the little seeds that you guys give us are exponential. And anytime I get money from somebody, I'm going to try to multiply it. So I just, again, thank you.
That's a wonderful story. So you were told it'd be 10 years, and it took you about a year to get going then, right?
It took us a year to get going and get the state to back it with funding so that when we installed stuff, they'd reimburse us. It did take 10 years. Brock was right on the money. It was 2 years early, 2017, when it made it in the Medicaid code, that you can use some of this money to go back home.
I appreciate your perseverance and stick-to-itiveness. That's great.
Yep.
All right, moving along here. Brooke, I'm going to ask you, not just for Partners in Education, but any Toledo community organization, how does partnering with somebody like Toledo Rotary Club, what does that mean to you and Partners in Education?
Well, I think what I'd like to talk about is our fundraiser last year, just as an example. We host a fundraiser every year in May. And last year, it was such an honor that we had so many people that showed up from the Toledo Rotary. And it was really a lovely evening celebrating the work of Partners in Education. In addition to that, the Rotary sponsored our fundraiser at the highest level, which was wonderful. And that money went directly back into our program, specifically our literacy program that year. And in part because of that funding, we were able to serve almost 600 students with one-to-one literacy work in 10 area schools. We completed almost 5,000 mentoring sessions that last year. And I'm proud to say that this year, we have already served 500 students, and it's only December. And so it wasn't a little bit, that funding went very far in helping Toledo area students. Additionally, last year in our college and career program, I needed help with career speakers. That's a big part of the program. We need people to come in and talk to students about their careers and how they got there and what they wanted to be when they grew up. And I was really running short. I didn't have enough people, and I reached out to Kevin, and Kevin sent a blast email to the Rotary members. We were getting emails. I mean, they were coming in so fast. I didn't have enough. I couldn't even place all of the people that showed interest. So I think that, partnering with the Rotary has very, very, very much helped both of our programs in different ways. So.
Dave?
I would like to just take a moment and celebrate the impact that you have helped create. Initially, you might have thought that you were investing in a park, but that park has now grown into what will become the country's best Riverwalk in a few years. And I think that it all started because of your initial investment in Middle Grounds. And if we think about the results we've seen so far, we're only about 25% into this entire project. This time next year, we'll be about halfway done. From June to June of this year, we had about 1.5 million visitors come to the network of parks that we're building on the riverfront downtown. And that tells the story of what's happening here. Parks, at the end of the day, do a lot of things. They bring a lot of benefits to our community. But with those kind of numbers, I think we can all agree, parks do one thing really well, and that's they bring people together. And what do people need? People need businesses to serve them. Businesses need employees. Employees need places to live. So now the parks that you are supporting also becomes very significant economic engines for our community. And on the periphery of the work that we're doing downtown, Paul Toth at the annual meeting of Connect Toledo went through a roster of projects that totaled about $500 million in new private economic development that you're seeing flow and directly connected to the work that we're doing. The project that you're supporting is also directly connected into 6 individual neighborhoods, and these are some of our most impoverished and our most historic neighborhoods that we have to support. And you're starting to see fundamental changes in every one of those neighborhoods as a result of this project. So I would encourage you, as you think about your future support of the foundation, you never know how your gifts are going to be leveraged and layered to impact and create impact that's so much more significant than what you might have initially thought. And that's certainly been the case for your support with Metro Parks.
Thanks, Dave. And Ash, I think we'll transition to our last question here. What's the one message that you hope everybody in this room takes away from this today, and how they could help by contributing to the Toledo Rotary Foundation, how they can help create a greater good for our community?
I would say that any gift that you give, any contribution that you give is lasting. You know, you guys are investing into our community, and for our example, we're 124 years old now, and we've been able to do all kinds of different things that we would have never been able to do in this community without you guys. And not only in our community, but a lot of the stuff that we're doing is recognized nationally. And I'm pretty sure that that's consistent in Toledo with a lot of organizations. So I think, you know, fueling that engine definitely is a message.
Thanks, Dave. Or Ash, I'm sorry. Dave, what's the one message you would like everybody to walk away with from today?
I think that the one common thing that I've heard amongst the three of us is the growth of your investment, the growth of your investment, and sort of the multiplying effect that you're seeing have. It's, again, not just investing in a park. You've essentially started the process of reinventing the entirety of downtown and our regional reputation. And so every single one of us have told a very similar story in that regard. It wasn't a ramp, it was a total recreation of a system that has affected hundreds and hundreds of people now.
Thank you. Brooke, we'll let you have the final say here.
I think that supporting the area's schools is the #1 most important thing that we can do socially and economically for the Toledo area. And so I think a gift to the Rotary Foundation would be a wonderful way to continue that work and reach more students and, you know, help make Toledo even stronger.
Thanks, Brooke. Ash, Dave, Brooke, we really, really appreciate you being here with us today. Thanks so much for not only being here today, but all the work you all do every day to support our community. We really, really appreciate it. So let's give it up for our panelists. You guys can stay here. All right, Jim, I gotta adjust a little bit here. I'll just hold it. I was going to maybe summarize some of our panel comments, but I think they did a good job, so I'll skip over that. I'm going to say a few things, and we're going to wrap up, and we'll have time for questions at the end of our session today. A year ago at Foundation Day, I told a little story, and I'm going to kind of do a rerun of that, and I apologize, but the story will be kind of the same, but the theme is no different. And the story I told last year is I got my first job when I was 10 years old. I got a paper route. And tell you what, being a paper boy, this was in 1968, I learned all of the basic lessons that I need today to run a business. I learned about customer service and everything else. And one of the lessons I learned early on from my parents is that said, okay, you're now earning money and you have an obligation, a responsibility to give some of that back to others that aren't as fortunate as us. This paper route was my brother Rob and me that had it. And they said a rule of thumb is to give 10% of your earnings back to others. And Rob and I had this route. We had 50 customers. The papers were 10 cents each. We got to keep 2 cents. So we were going to make $1 a day. So we went from 0 to $1 overnight. We were, rolling in the cash. And so we did the math on that. 10% of $1 a day, 10 cents a day that we were going to give to others. And, 10 cents didn't seem like a whole lot. I didn't have any, big boy expenses, no room, no board, no taxes to pay. All right, we can do the 10 cents a day. But there were a couple things I didn't get, and it probably took me many years to understand this, is I thought, what's that 10 cents going to mean to my church or the Salvation Army or the food bank? They want $1 gifts or $10 gifts. What's my 10 cents going to mean? And I understood eventually that it was not the amount I was giving, It was the fact that I was going to be in the game, right? I was going to be a participant to help support the greater good. And whether it was 10 cents a day or $1 a day, I was in the game. The other thing I didn't understand is how quickly that 10 cents a day could compound over time. You know, Dave mentioned how they could leverage that Middle Grounds project into doing all these other things. But I think about that 10 cents a day we were able to give. Our paper route was 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. So over the course of a year, that 10 cents a day equaled $30 a year, all right? That was a pretty good chunk of money. And if Rob and I could give $30 a year and the teacher down the road could give $100 and maybe the steel worker could give $120, that really adds up in a big way. And I also learned that, and I will say, was I the perfect giver, the perfect tither, that every week I hit that goal? I didn't. You know, we have things in life that happens. We get headwinds, right, in our business or our personal lives. Probably the biggest headwind we faced as paper boys is we had a customer that was 4 weeks in arrears, right? They owed us $2.40, and they moved, and they were gone. And so we didn't have big fancy words like aged accounts receivable, but we learned very quickly, you know, when we deliver the service, don't be shy about politely asking the customer for the money, all right? So that was a little headwind we hit, and I'm guessing we missed a few weeks of our donation, but because we were part of that team with the teachers and the steel workers, whoever, you know, the ship was able to stay afloat. So I want to close by saying we should all be really, really proud of our Rotary Club. We are traditionally been one of the largest clubs in the world. And Kevin, I'm not sure where we are today, maybe in the top 10. 15? That's awesome. Okay, all right. And I want to tell you, I recently hired a woman from Detroit, and one of the things on Myra's resume that stood out to me is she was a member of the Detroit Rotary Club. In fact, she was president for a term. I said, Myra, how many members do you have? And she said, we have about 50 members. And maybe my chest puffed out a little bit. And I said, boy, we've got 300 members. And she said, you got to be kidding me. And, you know, you think about Toledo, people in Detroit think of us as maybe little brother, right? 300 members is incredible. And I want to submit a couple of challenges or asks to you today. The first challenge is that everybody in this club participate in one service project for this fiscal year with our Rotary Club so we can get 100% participation. The other ask I have is that everybody in this club donate to the foundation in some way. If we can get 100% participation there, even if we miss our monetary goal, 100% participation would be wonderful. Our goals for the year are $100,000 in total gifts and 100% participation. And you might ask, all right, Pat, what should my gift be? You need to ask that of yourself. And like Carol, I went out on the internet last night, so you got to believe this. And I said, all right, my $30 gift in 1968, what would that be worth in 2024? And the answer I got was $272. So maybe there's a margin of error there. Let's say $250. My ask of each of you is to try to donate at least $250 to the foundation this year. Some of us can't do that. Some of us can do a lot more. But I think the aspiration is that everybody gives and you shoot for that $250. And I will say, if this club can achieve those 100% participation goals, not only can we call ourselves one of the largest Rotary clubs in the world, but I think we can call ourselves one of the finest clubs in the world. Thank you. I think Jim's going to take questions, so I'll hand it over.
Yeah, thanks so much, Pat. Thanks for taking the leadership on our annual campaign. Here is where we have time for questions, if you have any, of either the foundation or maybe our panelists or anything else. Carol?
Good afternoon. I have a question for Brooke. What schools, what area does Partners in Education cover?
We are in Toledo area schools, underserved communities typically, and we are in, let me think about this, 10 Toledo public schools, we are in 2 Catholic schools, and then 5 charters.
Good. Anyone else? I guess we did a decent job of covering things then. Yeah. Oh, that's right. We have on the overview page, you'll see about the middle of that, there's a couple categories for special contributions. We have the 1912 Association or Society that is $1,000 donated in 1 year. We have a Legacy League for those of you who would like to make provision for the Rotary in your wills. And the President's Club is $250 in 1 year. So I think you get a designation on your badge if you're in the President's Club, a little asterisk or some cryptic little note that we all know. But yeah, that's an important point. I was remembering that here, and I didn't think, how am I going to work that in? Well, we have a lot to be thankful for. Thank you for our panelists being here, and thanks, Pat, for running the campaign this year. I'm very optimistic. I think we're going to really, we'll be able to do it this year. We've got 50 more members than we had last year at this time, and I think we've got a lot of good reasons to support our foundation. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. I'd heard the quote years ago that people don't volunteer because they have time. They volunteer because they have heart. And I think the same is very true for our annual campaign. We're not asking you to donate because you have money. Although if you do, we should talk. We're asking you to donate because you have heart. Jim talked at the beginning, said he wasn't quite sure the difference between a 501c4 and a 501c3, and I think today is all about the difference. The 501c4 is a membership organization, an association of business professionals that get together to grow their business. From the very beginning, 113 years ago, Toledo Rotary was set out to do more than just get business leaders together to grow their business. And that is why, over 100 years ago, our foundation was formed, so that you would get a benefit, a tax benefit, when we do that work. The 501c3 is how we have the impact we do in the community. It's how we plant the seeds that grow into mighty oak trees in our community. And we are so excited about the work that has been done. We're so proud of the work that's been done. And I, for one, am very excited about the work that is yet to come. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for taking advantage of the tax benefits of a 501c3. The more you donate, the more you save. I think that's the way that works. Talk to your tax professional. So thank you all so much for being here. Jim, thank you to you and the foundation trustees for all the great work that you guys do. And let's remember our goals, $100,000, and most importantly for each one of us, 100% participation. And the only way we get there is if you do your part. Thank you very much. Make it a great day, and we are adjourned.